Episode 73 of Unentitled Sports is live. Today we are here to talk to you all about the San Francisco Giants, as we often do. We are going to go over the MLB draft and potentially some MLB draft controversy that we've seen. And we are going to break down the Jauan Jennings trade request / contract extension request. That is just flashbacks for the San Francisco 49ers. And we're going to do it all in a quick, fun episode. So sit tight. Ryan, we are here to start with the San Francisco Giants, who are back. Are we so back? I was talking about it. You know, we were done. It was over. It was completely over. And I'd argue we may be back.
Yeah, I think. That's what we're going to do this episode. We're going to continue talking about it. For me, I think the verdict is still out. Just to make sure all of our listeners are up to speed, we are currently in the All Star break, and the Giants are 52-45, 6 games back from the Dodgers for the NL West, and I believe a half game back from the Padres for the last wild card spot. So, and the story of the Giants season has been their pitching has been incredible. Their offense has not. You know, much like last year, the offense has struggled, particularly with runners in scoring position. This year, a big trend has been a lot of close one-run games, close or one-run games. The Giants have lost a lot of close and one-run games, but they've won even more close and one-run games. So it feels like, you know, every time the Giants lose a close game, everyone's like, man, the Giants are terrible in close games or terrible in one-run games. But you actually look at it, they're actually better in close games and one-run games. They've won more of those than they've lost. So a lot of frustrating losses, but also a lot of lucky wins. And I feel like if we're analyzing the trend from the first half of the season, the Giants' close game execution has been better than it has been bad. And that is backed up by their record in one-run games, two-run games, three-run games. You get the picture. But what is, how do we feel about the Giants? You know, after that incredible hot start, they crashed down to earth a little bit, and they've been a little up and down since. For me, I'm not too concerned with the Giants right now because, yes, they're on the outside looking in of a playoff spot, but they're a half game back, and there's probably 80 games left to play. So you've given yourself the opportunity to fight for a playoff spot in the last 2.5 months of the season. That's all you can ask for.
Damn.
And a lot of
that's new information to me that you just dropped right there, that the Giants are on the outside of the playoffs looking in. I haven't yet opened up the wild card standings Google tab, but I'm sure now that you've mentioned it, I won't be able to stop thinking about it. So
yeah. Sorry to ruin
your
next. Yeah, sorry to ruin the next 2.5 months for you. But here's the thing, I feel like this Giants team at the moment feels a little different than last year's Giants team, and it feels like how I feel about this Giants team changes all the time. But right now, I feel better than I did about this team last year, because last year this team simply could not buck the trends that were getting them down. They were always stranding runners in scoring position, and they were always losing close games, and they were always, failing to break that glass ceiling that kept them at mediocre. Now, this season, it feels like they are still falling victim to a lot of those trends, but they are also bucking those trends a lot. They still struggle on offense a lot, but they also have some good offensive performances in some games where they do score a lot of runs, and they do lose a lot of close or one-run games, but they also win a lot of those games as well. So a lot of the trends that I see getting the Giants down, this year's Giants, I see them bucking those trends sometimes and then reverting back and then going back and forth. So at least it's this back and forth that the Giants are kind of experiencing, whereas last year they were consistently bad in the measures that they were bad at. This year, in the things that they are bad at, they are at least inconsistent at. And I feel like, despite all the ups and downs, the fact that the Giants are still a above 500 team and they are still very much in the playoff mix, the fact that they're able to still be this good ball team while still struggling with inconsistencies and struggling with the things that they struggle with, it makes me feel good about this Giants team.
Well, fun fact, actually. The Giants this year have an average of 4.11 runs per game, which ranks 22nd in the MLB. Last year, the Giants had an average of 4.23 runs per game, which also was around the early 20s in the MLB. So surprisingly, the Giants are actually scoring less this year. But what you're saying feels true. Like, it just feels right. And I think it's because of the wins, right? It's at the end of the day, who cares if you score 4 runs in a game that you lose? Like, it feels like it means nothing. So like now it's these meaningful runs, and like situational baseball is something that Buster Posey talks about all the time. That's kind of the calling card of the San Francisco Giants, and it's been that way for a long time. They're just executing on that a little bit better this year. And the other thing that's very different from this year and last year is obviously the bullpen. Last year, we saw not a horrible, but a bad season from Camilo Doval. And really Ryan Walker was kind of the only guy who was standing out. We had a couple down years and just a bunch of filler bullpen arms that didn't feel like they were solid and consistent. This year, that's just not the case. The Giants have the number 1 bullpen in all of baseball, and their top-end starters are also performing. So the pitching has been better this year. And it's just been these clutch moments. You mentioned late game Giants. Like, 9th inning Giants has been great. I'm pretty sure they lead the league in walk-off wins. They might be tied for first place in walk-off wins. But, emblematic of late game Giants recently has been what happened against the Philadelphia Phillies with Patrick Bailey hitting a walk-off inside the park, 3-run home run, down 2. I was at the game. It was an amazing feeling. It was. I mean, I don't want to say it was had to do with me being there. Actually, I mean, we have a theory that does run on this podcast about that. The game that I had gone to before then, Matt Chapman hit a walk-off home run. The Giants win 2-1 or 3-2. 3-2.
Yeah, 3-2.
It was that's right. And I was at that game, and it was pretty boring until the very end. This game was kind of the same. It felt like the Giants were going to lose the game. We had one RBI up to that point in the 9th inning, and it was on a check swing from Dom Smith that ended up skirting past the third baseman, and it felt like there was no offense at all. But come the 9th inning, obviously everything changed. Going through that moment was such a I would say it was a mixed feelings of emotion. Have you ever been to a walk-off win?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's so cool because everybody around you becomes your best friend, right? Like, the people, if you happen to be wearing the same hat as somebody else, like, it's the coolest thing in the world. So these 2 guys in front of me, I was with my family. They were, we were having some banter about the Giants throughout the 9th inning and kind of like in the 8th. And we were talking shit about Patrick Bailey in particular. And when he came up to bat in that 9th inning, and this guy in front of me agreed. I said we should pinch hit for Patrick Bailey right now. We should have Luis Matos in, and Patrick Bailey should go to the bench, and we should bring in Kinsner to be the catcher for the rest of the game, assuming that we can tie the game somehow with a Luis Matos triple or something like that. And immediately afterwards, Patrick Bailey hits the ball off the wall, the shit talk meant nothing before. Like, everything went away. There was no level of oh, he's actually proving me wrong, so I feel bad about this. No, there was not a morsel of that emotion at all. It was complete elation. When he hit it off the wall, my first thought was, oh, is that a home run? And then I see he's still going, right? And I'm like, oh shit, wait, no, we're back in this. This is not a home run. This is a play that's happening right now. And my next thought is, that's triples alley. We're scoring 2. Game's going to be tied. Let's go. I said that. That's scoring 2. That's scoring 2. And everybody's screaming around me. And then I look and I see Patrick Bailey rounding third base going home. And then it's just, oh my God. oh my God, like this is really going to happen. Everybody's realizing it at that point. The throw is just completely offline. He scores the run. Everybody's jumping up and down, high fives all around. These people that are in front of me, we're literally hugging. We're like all have our arms around each other, jumping up and down at this. It was just an amazing moment. And the mixed bag of emotions comes from two things. One, the shit talk that I had about Patrick Bailey right before it happened. That was like, okay, now I feel bad. He did me a big solid. I've been to another Patrick Bailey walk-off game as well. He has 3 in his career. I've been to 2 of them. The other thing was throughout the entire game, from the first inning, I was having conversations with this guy that was sitting behind me who was a Phillies fan. I was sitting along the right field line, the Phillies dugout, and there were a bunch of Philly fans around. And one guy in particular who was from the Bay Area, had grown up a Phillies fan, and was really clearly a diehard. He was there by himself. He's like a 38-year-old guy. He was talking about his wife and kid that were at home. He knew every stat about the Phillies, and we were just chatting about, hey, how's this guy doing this year? What do you think about this? So
he wasn't like an insufferable Philly douchebag. Like he was a cool guy.
No, not at all. He was a very good guy. You could just tell that he loves the Phillies. Like he's from the Bay, but he's like a real Phillies fan. No shame in doing that. I respect a person who's fully into their fandom as much as this guy was, and the Phillies were up in the game, and he was feeling very good. You could tell that he was really happy when the Phillies were scoring, and he was saying like, "Oh man, like I thought we were going to lose this game. Like we have Taijuan Walker on the mound. You guys have Robbie Ray. Like this is a bad matchup for us. I thought I was going to go to the game that we were going to lose." And like he's like really giddy, and it was fine. Like I was happy that he was happy, and when it all went down in the 9th inning. And everybody's jumping and screaming, I looked behind, and just the lack of emotion was so shocking on this man's face. Just standing, just with a complete straight line for his mouth, and just watching everything that was going on. And before people stopped celebrating, he left. He left the stadium. He was gone. And I felt really bad about that. It was
Poor guy.
It was so real. It was such like real emotion. And that's what baseball gives you, man. That's what July baseball does to you. It was great. Overall, it was great.
It's crazy.
It was like art.
Crazy how much. Yeah, crazy how much harder baseball hits when there aren't any other sports.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, it's everything. So that to me was like an indicator that the Giants are winning the World Series this year. I think we did win the World Series. There was like a small version of a World Series that we won that night. So I'll always have that, even if we don't win the World Series. But yeah, I mean, my opinions on Patrick Bailey changed quite a bit. And, just to get back to our conversation about how the Giants actually are doing in terms of like analysis and what we're supposed to do on this podcast, things actually are turning around for certain players. Patrick Bailey is now hitting above 200, finally. And Willy Adames has really turned around. We talked about on the last episode, what would it take for Willy Adames to salvage this year? And to that point in the season, he had been hitting like 208. And we'll fast forward the next month, and he hits like 313 with a ton of home runs. And all of a sudden now he's on the 220 line, which is not great still. But the way that he could salvage his season is to continue hitting 300 for the rest of the year. And if he does that, then he'll finish the season.
Well, I remember we talked about
240 with 18 home runs or 20 home runs and 80 RBIs, which would be great. And he's doing exactly that. It's been huge for the Giants. I think Jung-Hoo Lee might be putting it back together as well. His recent games in the Dodgers series were good. I think he had a bunch of hits against the Phillies as well. And he's brought that batting average back up to about 246, which is crazy because at the beginning of the year he was at like 330, and people were calling for him to be MVP. And now we're just happy with him at 246. So he's just stringing together some base hits, which is good. And Matt Chapman is back in the lineup and playing pretty good. So the offense seems like it is putting it back together. 2 unfortunate losses to the Dodgers before the All-Star break. But the second half of the season will be incredibly exciting. As you mentioned, the Giants are half a game back of a wild card spot. And this is the team that will make you clench your butt cheeks the whole way. So if you could pick one team that's going to be the most exciting, are they going to make a playoff spot or not in the entire MLB? I would say the Giants, because they are an exciting team that has late game, heroics, and they're right on the edge right now.
Yeah. Well, and I just want to ask you, or I'll start by saying, that Patrick Bailey inside of the park home run to walk it off, that's gonna live in the memory of Giants fans for decades. That is probably the highlight of the season. Unless the Giants go to the World Series, that's probably the highlight of the season, and it's just gonna be one of those iconic plays that define a certain stretch of time.
Totally.
I want to ask you though, out of all the sports moments that you've witnessed live, where does that one rank among Giants plays that you've seen live, and where does that one rank among anything you've seen live?
That's a very good question. Thank you, Ryan, for asking that. I'm thinking about, because I've never been to a San Francisco 49ers game.
You've never been to a Niners game?
Never been to a Niners game. No.
Wow.
I know, right? I should definitely go, and I want to go this year. I think I'm eyeing one of the games to go with my brothers, maybe the Jags game. But there's probably some great Cal football moments. I've seen the Bears come back and win the big game multiple times. I've seen them also just dominate the big game before, which is also a great feeling. I remember a couple of years ago
that Miami game was pretty cool.
No, it was cool actually. I mean, it was a great thing in the moment. It was such a. I mean, if we won that game, it probably would be number one on the list.
Yeah.
But no, I would have to say that this Patrick Bailey walk-off home run was number 2 all time. Number 1 was actually in another regular season Giants game, which I watched. I think it was 2023 or 22. No, it must have been 22. Yeah. And the Giants went down early. I think this was against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Went down early, 8-1, and they just fought back through the entire game. Base hit here, base hit there, knocked in a run, home run. All this, and it led up to Mike Yastrzemski in the bottom of the 8th inning. Actually, Giants were down by 3 at that point. It was 8-5. Bases are loaded. And Mike Yastrzemski hits a grand slam into the water, and it was just wow! That one was number 1 all time.
You think that was better than
It was because I think the play itself, Mike Yastrzemski's grand slam, is not as cool or as interesting as Patrick Bailey's walk-off inside the park home run, but the game leading up to that point, watching the Giants just slowly come back, and the excitement just rising and rising and rising, and it just all culminating in this grand slam was it was like a movie, it was like Moneyball type of stuff. This play, which happened, was before it happened, no one was expecting the Giants to win this game. It was just another damn, the Giants really can't hit. Kyle Schwarber hit 2 home runs in this game, and he didn't hit 2. He had 1 home run and almost knocked another one, and that was going to be the difference in the game. So the play itself was cooler, but the moment was better with Mike Yastrzemski's walk-off home run against not walk-off. It was a 8th inning grand slam against the Arizona Diamondbacks. What about you, Ryan? What's your favorite all-time live sports moment you've been to?
Oh gosh. That's really hard to say. Well, before you get to me, I just want to point out you've been to a lot of Warriors playoff games. Is there anything Warriors that would compete with what you've seen at the Giants game?
I don't think so. I haven't seen any late game heroics in the Warriors. I've seen really great games. I've watched a couple playoff wins, which is awesome. But no, I haven't seen anything like a buzzer beater 3 to win a playoff game or anything like that. And there's nothing like that. That is the pinnacle, I think, of a live sports moment, is something that changes the game in your favor right at the end.
Yeah. Like a walk-off inside the park home run.
Like a walk-off inside the park home run. Yes.
All right, let me think. When we started talking about it, I was sort of like, oh boy, there's a good chance Lucas asks me what mine is. I got to think of one. One that comes to mind is I went to a Manchester United game. It was the season opener against Chelsea, and Manchester United won 4-0. So that was that was incredibly electric.
Respect.
It was a great game. Yeah, respect. Incredible game. Like obviously there wasn't one single moment from that game that stands out because they beat him pretty good 4-0. But a season opener against Chelsea that you win 4-0, like that's a game that probably a lot of Manchester United fans remember. That was a big game, and that I was very glad to be a part of that. I'm trying to think in the Bay Area.
The A's only lost by 2.
Um,
Are we on a lag? I think we're on a delay right now.
we're on a huge lag. I noticed it
Okay, it's
noticed
fine.
it like 10 or 15 minutes ago. I mean, I've been to a lot of A's games. There's nothing I remember like, oh yeah, I was at this A's game where this happened. I was at the second to last A's home game, but that's not the last A's home game. Warriors, I actually haven't been to very many Warriors games. 49ers, I've only been to 2 Niners game. They lost them both. I've been to a ton of Sharks games.
Next time we have nothing to talk about, I'll bring on Nathan to talk about the Sharks versus Golden Knights playoff game that he went to, where I think the Sharks went down like 5-1.
Yeah. He was at that game. That game 7.
He was at that game. Him and my
wow.
dad. Yep.
Like that. I mean, yeah, that would easily be number 1 in my life.
Yeah, he talks about it all the time.
Oh, you know what? This is actually number 1. The Michigan-Alabama Rose Bowl 2024.
Ooh. Nice.
Nick Saban's last game as the head coach of Alabama. Michigan won in overtime. That game was fucking nails, dude. Like, oh my god, the tension in that, like, it was a wire to wire game. It was the most stressful, tense game I've ever been to, but we won. Michigan won. Unfortunately, I can't say Michigan's national championship. I would love to be able to say that, but
yeah,
I can't. I was not at that game.
Although that was a pretty boring game.
I tried my best, and I was not at it. I feel like I've definitely told that story on this podcast before, right?
You have.
I had to have.
The short of it, he was going to go to Michigan, to Houston to watch the national championship game. Ended up spending the entire day in planes and the airport, and landed only with like 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Did not go to the game. Unfortunate.
Yeah. Missed the game. That is the yes, extremely short version of a very long story. I would love to be able to say Michigan winning the national championship. I would love to be able to say that's on my list. Unfortunately, I can't say that. But Michigan winning the Rose Bowl in the way that they did, that's number 1 on my list. All right, that's enough of that. Let's move forward a little bit. Let's talk about some other things happening around the MLB. Let's talk about first the MLB draft. Namely, I only know one selection. Actually, I know 2 selections from this draft. I only care about one of them. Selected number 2 overall, the highest MLB draft pick in UC Santa Barbara history. He is known as the A.J. Mitchell of the MLB, Tyler Bremner, out of Cesar Wasaka Stadium on the beautiful sunny shores of UC Santa Barbara, has gone number 2 overall to the Los Angeles Angels, and that is so freaking sweet. Number 2 overall, just a kid from Santa Barbara. Incredible.
Yeah. I couldn't believe it. I heard he was projected like top 10, right? And he goes number 2. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, I didn't realize. I mean, I also looked into it, and we can talk about the controversy, but let's keep going with the flowers that Tyler Bremner deserves. Obviously going into this season, he is the best player on the Santa Barbara Gauchos, and everybody knows it. And he's considered one of the top pitchers in the country. And he performs pretty good this year. I mean, he finished the season with a solid ERA, and I guess he, expanded mechanically on where he was before, and it stood out to MLB teams. There's been great pitchers in Santa Barbara history, but like you mentioned, he's the highest drafted player ever from Santa Barbara, which makes sense because if
Yeah, he
the
can't
only way
get
you can
much
possibly
higher.
get higher is be the number one overall
Right.
pick.
And Santa Barbara hasn't
Um,
had a number one overall pick yet.
so it's awesome. So happy for him. Congratulations to Tyler Bremner. Man, that contract also is going to be crazy. I wonder what the
Yeah.
signing bonus is. I'll get back on that signing bonus for the number 2 overall draft pick.
Hmm.
Do you have any more flowers to give to Tyler Bremner? You've
Oh,
watched him many times.
yes. Yeah. So here's the story on Bremner. So 2024, his sophomore season, he pitched incredible. He had like a 2.4 ERA and 11-1 record. And I mean, he was untouchable. He was untouchable. I can only think of one or two starts he had that, were less than even perfect. And they were still like good starts. Tyler Bremner was insane his sophomore year, and coming out of a sophomore year, going to his junior year, we're like, okay, if he can pitch like that again into his junior year, he's going to be a top five pick. And his numbers took a little bit of a hit this year. He had like a 3.4 ERA. His record wasn't nearly as good because the team wasn't as good. Um, and I think part of his hit in numbers is his mom has been battling cancer for the last 5 or 6 years or something like that, and unfortunately, um, she lost that battle with cancer
Oh
about a
God,
month ago. Incredibly,
that's horrible.
yeah, horrible and tragic and difficult for Tyler and his whole family. And I don't think it's a wild assumption by any means to assume that the last several months for Tyler and his family have been difficult, and I think that is at least part of the reflection of why his numbers weren't quite as incredible as they were um, a year ago. That all being said, I think Tyler Bremner is just as good of a pitcher as he was a year ago, if not better, and just as good as a prospect. Clearly, the the Angels agree with me. But yeah, so Tyler Bremner came into the season as like a top five pick, and then because his season was only good and not great, his projection slid from like anywhere between 15 and 20 was what I was seeing. And then the Angels shock the world and take him number two. Um, I give that pick an A plus. I'm not sure everyone else
Excellent
would, but
choice.
here's the thing. I've actually seen Tyler Bremner pitch a lot more than a lot of these ESPN people and
That's true.
MLB.com people who are giving this ranking.
That is
I
very
may
true.
be I may be a hell of a lot more biased than those people, but I've also seen Tyler Bremner pitch way more than those people as well. So
I mean, realistically, you've seen Tyler Bremner pitch probably more than most MLB scouts. Like, not in terms of film, but like physically in person. I guess the Angels probably spend a long time uh, vetting him. But if you're picking at the end of the draft, Ryan Greenberg has seen more Tyler Bremner than you.
yes, yep, that's facts. And yeah, so and Tyler Bremner, the season that I did radio for UCSB and wrote about the team for Newshawk, Tyler Bremner was playing some of the best ball I've ever seen anyone play. And what really amazed me was like, oh, Tyler Bremner's pitching today. Cool, we won.
Yeah.
Like, the
Yeah.
amount of confidence and security that you felt when Tyler Bremner was on the mound was automatic. And I don't know that I've ever had that feeling with another pitcher at any level. And
Well, part
and
of it,
UCSB had some other really good pitchers that year. I think they had three starting pitchers with a sub 3 ERA. And Bremner was, in my opinion, the best one out of all of them. And like really with all of our starting pitchers, at least our weekend starters, whenever they took them out, I'm like, all right, cool. They're like it's a guarantee that they're going to pitch the lights out. But the one I felt that strongest with was Bremner. And he was just a joy to watch. I got to interview him a few times. I didn't get to know him very well, but I got to interview him a few times. And he seemed like a cool kid. And yeah, it was just I was so excited when I saw that he went second overall. I have a vested interest in seeing him succeed, and this seems like step one of hopefully a very successful career.
Yeah, part of like feeling that all the starters are pretty locked down was that in that season that you called games at Caesar Wasaka Stadium, uh, they didn't lose a game at home in the regular season.
Yeah,
So that makes sense why you felt like, damn, we're going to win this game. We actually
right,
won all of them, every
right,
single
yeah,
game.
yeah.
The Gauchos were
I
pretty
did a
good.
couple road games. I did a couple road games which they did not win. But yeah, it's funny. So last year, 2024, Gauchos go undefeated at home throughout the regular season, and then they host a regional. They end up losing, but in both regional games that they lost, they were designated as the away team. Um,
Ah.
so UC Santa Barbara did not lose a single home game that they played at home.
So did they sit in the away dugout? That probably
No,
messed up the mojo.
they were able to
Take that back.
like stay in their dugout because it's connected to their clubhouse
Okay.
and their locker
All right.
room and
Something
like
else messed up their mojo.
yeah.
It wasn't their fault. That's what I'm
Yeah,
trying
no,
to say.
I think it was batting first and pitching second.
I looked it up, and last year's number two overall pick got a signing bonus of $9.25 million.
Woo! Jesus
So
Christ.
this
That's a
year
lot of
should
money,
be
dude.
probably more than that. So shout out to Tyler Bremner,
Yeah.
man. Just got a
Hall of Fame
huge,
bag getter. Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
man,
That's a lot of money.
$9 million to the bank account. That's like winning the lottery. That's
Yeah.
that's that's great. Congratulations to Tyler Bremner. So you mentioned that he was projected to go later in the draft, and that's kind of been the story of this draft. Everybody's was shocked that the top two picks actually, the number one overall pick, who I believe was a shortstop out of LSU, maybe
LSU.
yeah,
I know it was an LSU kid. That's all I know about him.
and he was projected to go later in the draft, like seventh or eighth. And I believe the Rockies had the number one pick, and they took him. So after that, everybody was
It was the
thinking that
Nationals.
oh, really? Oh, well, this is how much we know about the MLB draft. I did like look up the MLB draft if you guys are wondering. But after that, it was Bremner. Everybody expected it to be the pitcher from LSU,
Yeah.
who was uh,
Is it Cade Anderson? Is that his
Cade
name?
Anderson. Yes, that's correct. And he did not go until, I believe, third or fourth to the Mariners. So the Mariners were pretty excited to get that projected number one overall guy later in the draft. But, in the MLB, you'd never know, like the
Yeah.
MLB draft, look back on years before, and it's not at all a guarantee that
Yeah.
these
It's
guys
not
are
like
going to
the
be good.
NFL or NBA
Yeah,
draft.
it's not
And I
like
think this year
the
in
guy who goes
particular,
first is better always.
yeah.
It's really not the case.
Right.
Look
And this year in
back.
particular, I think was like from what little I read about it, like this year in particular, there was even less of a consensus about who's going to go number one, who's going to go at the top, who are the best prospects in this draft. I think this year there weren't as many standouts in the draft class, and what standouts there were didn't stand out as much.
Yeah. So who cares? Shut the fuck up if you're hating on Tyler Bremner.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Be prepared to
and
be wrong for the next 20 years.
I mean, I think that he could progress. The thing that you mentioned was really unfortunate about his family. It makes sense that, that's probably why his numbers took a little bit of a dip this year. But, I'm sure his stuff is as good as it was. He's still throwing anywhere between 95 and 98 miles an hour. And, the way that he dominated in 2024, just go ahead and pitch exactly like that. And you will do very well in, the majors. So, I think he can be a great major leaguer, and obviously the Angels think that too. So again, shout out to Tyler Bremner.
Yes. Shout out to Tyler. And like this dude, it's like when we talk about AJ Mitchell, there's kind of like all right, there's an
Yeah,
unspoken like hold your horses. He was, the 38th pick in the draft. He's a bench player. Tyler Bremner was picked second overall. The expectation, if you're the second overall pick, is that you are going to have a very successful MLB career. And so, like, we are not blowing smoke up Tyler Bremner's ass when we say we expect him to do big things in the MLB. He was the second overall pick.
yeah, he should be expected to at least be a consistent starter in the
Yes,
MLB. I think that
like a
that's
bona
what you
fide
expect.
MLB starter.
If you got the number two overall pick, you would assume that whoever that player is will in a couple years be in the major league organization and be performing.
Yep.
Like
That's his
I'm not gonna.
trajectory.
I'm not. Yeah, that is his trajectory. I'm not going to say he's going to, automatically be a star at the MLB level. That's not the
Right.
case. That doesn't happen unless you're Paul Skeens and you get drafted number one overall because you were like literally throwing 102 miles an hour and dominating everybody. And you could just literally say, okay, Paul, you're starting on Tuesday against the Marlins.
Right.
Have fun,
Well, and
and he's going to do great.
I think some of those teams in the SEC might even be better than the White Sox and the Rockies. So it's not that hard for Paul Skeens to make the jump.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's like Tyler, if you're a number two overall pick, you automatically are one of the best prospects in your team's prospect pool. And one of those guys that you expect to be you know, a contributing MLB player, if not a high end MLB player, in due time.
absolutely. Some more controversy, separate from the MLB draft, but still staying in the MLB world, was the MLB All Star Game. Interesting this year. The MLB seemed to like go real Gen Z about it and just like kind of like cater
They've
to.
been doing that a lot the last couple years.
Yeah, which I mean I like the moves which are, real, like making the game go faster. I think that's great for watching
Yep.
TV. I like adding like the pitch com, adding in like the bigger bases, I guess is good. Like whatever. That all that stuff that they've done is good, but like this other stuff is a little cringe, I think. For one, they elected Clayton Kershaw to the All-Star team after not having a great year, but they like it was like a what do they call that? Like a uh,
Honorary.
honorary all-star
Yeah, they
thing, a
did that with like Dirk
legacy.
Nowitzki and Dwayne Wade their last year in the league or something like that.
Yeah. And Clayton Kershaw's he's got 3,000 strikeouts this year. It's great, but I didn't need to see Clayton Kershaw in the All-Star game. I don't think that it added very much at
You're
all.
coming from a completely unbiased and neutral
Completely
perspective, by the
unbiased
way.
perspective. You have how many Dodgers already in the All-Star game? Let's just we need to add another one just because he wasn't good enough this year, but he is so good. It's like you're meat riding the Dodgers so hard, and it's the All Star game. No one's fucking watching this shit. Like no one watches the MLB All Star game anymore. Not since it doesn't matter for anything. If you want people to watch the MLB All Star, make it home field advantage in the World Series. Then I will watch. I
That's so
used to watch.
dumb, though. That's so
No,
like,
it's awesome.
no, it's dumb. Like, I agree that it works and that it gets people to care about the All Star game, but determining who gets home field advantage in the World Series by what happens in the All Star game is objectively the stupidest idea in sports. And if you disagree, you're lying to yourself and you're lying to me.
No, absolutely not.
You're
It is
you're
actually a
lying,
great
and
idea.
you know you're lying. We both know
I
you're
am
lying,
not
Lucas.
lying.
Cut the
No,
crap.
it is cool. I'll tell you why. Because once a year, I got to root for the best players in the National League. And I could say, I don't care, Manny Machado, he wasn't in the National League at the time. But, back in the day, it was all of the best players. Like now my team is the National League. And all of a sudden it's super cool. We lost every year, which kind of sucked. But it was like playing
We
me and the National
It's
League.
the National League, dude. It's not your team. It's the nat. Yeah,
It was my
like,
team. It mattered. It mattered. And when the Giants were in the World Series, it
oh
actually did
gosh.
matter, by the way. Like, who won the All-Star game could have won or lost the Giants a World Series. Like,
Yeah, but I agree that you should incentivize the All Star game. But what happens in the All Star game has zero bearing on the World Series whatsoever, and it's so unfair that who gets home field advantage in the World Series is determined by what happens in the All Star game.
I
That's
think it's
stupid,
traditional.
dude.
It's because for a
Yeah,
long
slavery
time,
was traditional at one point, dude.
for a long time, there was no interleague play, right? It was only you would
Which is
only
also
play
stupid.
within the National League, and you would only play within the American League.
Yep. And they
And
realized it was a dumb tradition, so they got rid of it.
I agree that it was not right, and they should have interleague play. I think they should do less of it. I think they do a little bit too much of it. But it's paying homage to what baseball was for so long. Like baseball used to not even have playoffs. Baseball used to just be the team that won the most games in the regular season was the World Series. They were the champion of the league. They won the pennant. And it's you're looking at baseball and then you just have to compare it to other sports. You're like, how do we make it more like this. Well, other sports, the All Star game is fucking stupid. So let's make the baseball game, stupid as well and not mean absolutely anything. Look at the All Star game in the NBA is an atrocity. It is the worst piece of product that the NBA is offering. Everybody hates it because they don't try. And in the MLB, they tried. The All Star starter mattered, and the guy that got up on the mound, he was trying. And they would choose specifically pitchers that were playing for teams that would be competing for a World Series, a spot in the World Series. So they would actually try. And you had this amazing thing that was the best baseball players in the entire world playing baseball against each other. You got to watch the pinnacle of a baseball game. The MLB All Star Game was literally the best possible talent-wise baseball game possibly to have ever been played at that time. Okay, so that's why I was so sick.
I mean, all of those points are 100% true. I 100% agree with all of those points, but they didn't address the argument that whoever gets home field advantage should not be determined by what happens in the All-Star game. You're 1,000% right that they should incentivize the All-Star game. I agree with you. And the All-Star game was definitely better when it determined home field advantage of the World Series. But home field advantage of the World Series is infinitely more important than an exhibition game. And
I mean,
what happens in that exhibition game shouldn't determine who gets home field advantage in the World Series when realistically those things are barely connected, if at all.
I disagree. I think maybe now with a level of interleague play it makes sense, but before when there was less interleague play, okay, one team dominated their own league and now they get to have the home field advantage for the All-Star game or for the World Series. Like maybe their league sucked.
That's
Why
that,
should
I mean
they
that,
get
that's
the
so
advantage?
dumb.
Like,
I mean, like you learn about in school and you learn about in science class, establishing like a connection between the dependent and independent variable and establishing association and causation. Literally, like the All-Star game being the independent variable and home field advantage being the dependent variable. That wouldn't.
it actually does make sense. Can I explain why it does make sense?
You can try.
Because the one team that's playing in the All-Star that's playing in the World Series is from the American League. And one team that's playing in the World Series
Really?
is from the National League.
Thank you.
And
I actually didn't know that.
To determine which one should get the home field advantage, they take the players from the National League and they play them against the players from the American League. And whoever wins that game gets to have the home field advantage.
Well, wouldn't
for
it
the
just make
All-Star,
more
for the
sense to
World Series.
do head to head if those teams played each other in the regular season?
But they wouldn't theoretically. There's a chance that they don't because back then
you're right,
not every team played every team.
You're right. But why don't shouldn't records matter?
Okay,
here's a bit
think about this in the NBA.
Here's the thing. What's a
Let's
better indication of who's a better team? Their record or whether or not the league they belong to has the better collection of all-star players and beat the other league's collection of all-star players?
They're both dumb. They're both stupid.
No, they're not.
Dumbass.
You're telling me record is a dumb way to measure how good a team is compared to another?
Okay, think about the NBA. The Eastern Conference.
I understand that there's
the
not
team
much
that wins the
crossover,
most games in the Eastern
and
Conference
that's a
is
sample
not
size
as good as the team.
crossover.
If
I
you win the
understand
same
that's a
amount of
small
games,
sample size, but that's still infinitesimally a better indication than what happens in the All-Star game.
you have an opportunity. You have a decision to make, right? A very important decision. Who gets home field advantage in the World Series? With that decision can be made in multiple ways. Why not choose the way that gives us another American holiday, which is the MLB All Star Game? Like, the MLB All Star Game was so sick. It was so sick, and everybody watched the home run derby back then.
Maybe you were just younger.
I was thinking about that too. I'm like, damn, maybe like life was just better back then because I was a kid.
I don't think. Yeah, I think the All Star Game being better back in the day is just a microcosm of everything being better back in the day.
Make America great again.
Yeah.
Bring back the All Star Game.
And then Obama had to just come and ruin the All Star Game.
Back when Bush was president, the All Star Game was sick.
That's what happens when you elect a Democrat. All our All Star games go to shit.
Imagine if Kamala was in office.
Biden's America, dude.
The All Star Game would be wiffle ball, and they would give it to the most inspirational players
Yeah.
on each team,
Yep.
and there would be no winner. Everybody would get a
Right.
participation trophy.
Right. Yep. And they'd all wear cages over their batting helmets, and the
Yeah,
pitchers would wear cages over their face,
yeah, for
and everyone
COVID,
would wear elbow pads. And yeah, they'd all still be wearing their masks. God.
double vaxxed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. They would yeah. Instead of baseball bats, they'd use their vaccination cards.
this is a productive conversation.
Yes.
So I think that's all we need to talk about the
Yeah.
MLB All
No,
Star Game.
wait, no, we didn't. No, no, we didn't even talk about
We
Mr.
don't need to
Kowski
talk
or
about it.
whatever's
It's
fucking
stupid.
name
Who fucking cares? Yeah, okay. The short is that there was this other pitcher. His name is
was.
Mizrokowski. He's a rookie. He's played like 10 games his whole career.
If
He got
even, I think.
selected to the All Star game. And it was also a dumbass, Rob Manfred, let's get more views on
Yeah.
the All Star game pick. And it
Another
left out
Kamala
real
Harris,
All-Stars.
Joe Biden thing.
I was surprised that Trump didn't march the National Guard in and
Yeah.
pin him down and
Right. Stop Mr. Kowski from playing in the All-Star game. Yeah.
give Ranger Suarez the All Star nod that he deserved.
Right.
Whoever it
Well,
was.
I can now that I think about it, I'm not that surprised that Trump kept Ranger Suarez out of the All-Star game. But
There you go.
yeah.
Tyler
But, yeah.
Rogers. Let's
Yeah.
bring Tyler Rogers to the All Star game.
Yeah. No,
Like, if you're protesting against ICE, protest against the MLB All Star game, please. Like, Mizrokowski does not deserve to be an All Star. Let's give it to Ranger Suarez.
yeah. Yeah.
Take all those signs and just paint over them. Mizrokowski, fuck you.
Can't spell Ms. Rakowski without I, C, and E.
Write that
Yeah,
down.
you can. Yeah. In fact, I don't think Ms. Rakowski has a C or an E. Can't spell Ms.
can't-
Rakowski without ice.
That's true. That's so true.
Yeah. No, only yeah. That would have been a good thing to add to the, Democrat joke. Democrats will have these kids in the MLB All-Star game who don't even have 10 career games played. That's what happens when you vote for a Democrat.
That's right. Who's next? Tyler Bremer
Right.
is going to be an All Star next year.
Biden's America, dude. Yeah. Right,
Yeah,
but that
that's
will
right.
actually be earned because in a year from now, Tyler Bremner's going to have like 30 starts under his belt and still have a 0.00 ERA.
That's correct. 30-0.
Yep.
Well, good talk.
30 perfect games in 30 starts.
How many strikeouts? How many strikeouts is that? 27 times
whatever,
30.
Yeah, whatever 27 times 30 is, yeah.
Yeah. So perfect games, all strikeouts.
Yep.
Yeah. Which is what we saw Clayton Kershaw. I don't know if you saw that video, the Clayton Kershaw strike. He had a perfect game with all strikeouts, 27 Ks in high school, and he also hit a home run in the
Is
game.
that real?
Yeah, that's real.
Wow.
Pretty
I think Clayton Kershaw went to the same high school Aiden Morrill did.
He also went to the same high school as Matt Stafford.
Yes,
You've
then
ever
it
heard.
was the same high school as Aiden Morrill. So I
Shout
know
out
Aiden
Aiden
Morrill
Morrill.
went to the same high school as Matt Stafford.
Shout out Aiden Morrill. If you're listening, comment down below. Comment Aiden Morrill down below.
Yes. Can we get an Aiden Morrill in the chat, please?
Well, we do have something else to talk about, and it is not MLB All Star Game related. It is Jauan Jennings and the San Francisco 49ers and what the fuck is going on there. It is unfortunate and sad.
Yeah.
Really, I think.
I needed a trigger warning on like the ESPN notification and all the Instagram posts because it did trigger some trauma and some PTSD. I'm like, oh God, no, here we fucking go again. Every fucking offseason, dude. Debo's done it like 3 times now.
Yeah,
Brandon
Ayuk.
Ayuk's done it. And by the way, when
Trent.
Ayuk doing it fucking derailed the whole team.
Yeah. And I'm
like-
really hoping that doesn't happen here. But just break it down. So what's going on exactly with Jauan Jennings right now?
Let's break it down. Jauan Jennings says, hey, give me a new contract or trade me to a team that will give me one. And you know what? Like, you look at Jauan Jennings' body of work and you look at his current contract, I kind of agree. I don't agree with Jennings' method of going about it. I don't agree with a lot of things that football players do or the way that they go about doing it. But you look at the precedent that football players have set, and I don't think that this is that far out of bounds what Jauan Jennings is doing because he does deserve a raise. He's getting paid $7.5 million a year. And I think he's in the last year of his. It's weird. Like I've been reading that he's in the last year of his contract, but I seem to remember him getting a 2-year extension last year. So I don't really know
I
what's
think
going.
he might have been a free agent at the end of last year, signed a 2-year deal, played one of
Oh,
those 2 years.
they signed him. They re-signed him as a free agent. That might be right. That might be right. In fact, I think that is right. But yeah, Jauan Jennings had a career year last year, and coming into this season, look at the 49ers wide receiver room. No more Debo Samuel, and Brandon Ayuk is going to probably miss the first half of the season. And when he does come back, there are no guarantees that he's getting back to 100%. There's also no guarantee that he won't get back to 100%, but I digress. But yeah, and then you look at the rest of that wide receiver room. It's a gunshot victim and a guy who's 5'9". So Jauan Jennings is really the only proven wide receiver. And last year he was so reliable last year. Everything that came his way, he was catching, he was making plays, he was getting first downs. I feel like he developed a great QB receiver relationship with Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy really trusted him last year, and it paid off. And Jauan Jennings was huge. He helped us win games, or he helped us almost win games that we would end up finding another way to lose. Jauan Jennings was a this is a really roundabout way of saying Jauan Jennings was a really good wide receiver last year, and coming into this year, he's probably our most important wide receiver. And so here's where things get difficult. The Niners actually have I've been seeing about $45 million in cap space for this year. And then next year is when Purdy's money kicks in. I think Bosa gets a huge raise. I think Kittle and Warner get raises. So there's a lot of money earmarked for next year, but there is still money that we are allowed to spend for this year. So I don't understand why the Niners just don't go, hey, here's a contract that's front loaded. We're going to give you a huge signing bonus. And your year one salary is going to be, you know, it's going to be a huge raise. And then going forward, it's not going to be as much, but you're still going to bring in a lot more money, and it will be guaranteed because it's not at the end of your contract, it's at the beginning of your contract. And now, granted, we've talked a lot about the structure of NFL contracts, and we've discussed how you're allowed to disperse someone's signing bonus throughout the duration of their contract as a cap hit. So, for example, if you sign a 5-year contract with a $100 million signing bonus, the cap hit for that signing bonus, I think you're allowed to make it $20 million each year. However, I don't know whether or not you're required to do it that way. For all I know, you could sign someone to a $100 million signing bonus, and you could have that $100 million be a 1-year cap hit. And knowing all the sort of financial flexibility and maneuvering that the Niners have done, it makes me feel like that you are allowed to do that. I really don't say that from a basis of fact, but it's just something that kind of speaks to me. I feel like you are allowed, if you're going to front load a contract, I feel like you are allowed to front load a cap hit as well. I really can't back that
I
up with
think you're
anything,
right.
and I could be wrong, but that, like, I want to believe that. And so I don't know, but I think there's a world where the Niners can, eat into this $45 million of cap space that they have to give Jauan what he's looking for without dipping into the money they have earmarked for next year. And you know what? I know just the guy to ask. In the name of not having cleared with him first, I'm not going to name names, but there is somebody I play softball with who works as the senior accountant for the 49ers. So I can ask him.
It's a great
I just
source.
and seriously, I should actually have him on the podcast with how much we talk about the semantics
Yeah.
of NFL contracts. He would be a great guy to talk to, and I can, see if he has any interest in divulging some of the inner workings of what really goes on as NFL contracts. I don't think a lot of it is like top secret stuff. I think it's just all really confusing.
Yeah,
But
totally. It
if we can
shouldn't be
get
top secret. It's
yeah,
like,
yeah. It
yeah,
like
it's just
as long as you're not getting into
rules.
individuals' specifics. But yeah, it's like he can really help us understand a lot of these questions that we have, and sort of, I'm sure he's not allowed to talk about, oh yeah, well here's what I would do, or here's what we're
Yeah,
planning on
yeah, yeah.
doing. But
Right.
he can say, hey, this is what we're allowed to do, and then we can draw conclusions based on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's actually, I just had this idea just now. But that's something I'll look into, see if I can
I
book us a guest.
I'm thinking about that, and the red flag that comes up to me is that if you do front load a contract so heavily like that, what is preventing the player from doing the same thing at the end of their contract? Say it's the last year of their contract, and they're just going to say, "Hey, I'm actually only due $6 million this year, so I'll just hold out unless you sign me to another contract or you trade me to another team." Same thing,
Well,
We'll be
then you
right
tell him
back.
to kick rocks, you know.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I mean,
I mean, here's
but
the
then
thing.
you're
It's
losing
like,
value on your contract. But I
but
agree. It's
play.
like,
I mean, like, there's nothing stopping players from doing that already. And if the only way to make it work in this case with Jauan and the Niners is to front load a contract, do it to kick the can further down the road because that's what John Lynch does, and he does it very well. He
it's true.
continuously kicks the can further down the road, so much so that he never actually surpasses the proverbial can.
Except for the $84 million we were paying in dead cap this year.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, actually, maybe you're
We're
right.
running over the can this year.
Maybe
This
yeah,
year the can is
yeah.
we missed the
Yeah,
K.
I guess you're right.
Flipped
That
on
is
it.
actually a completely true statement. What I said has been crashingly false this last 12 months.
Well, I hope that they do extend Jauan Jennings because, like you said, the Niners wide receiver room is not looking good. You have three life-altering ailments: one ACL tear, one gunshot wound, and one being 5'9".
Yeah,
Um,
something you know a
and
thing or two about.
yeah, I mean, I personally, I don't know if I could play NFL football this year either.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Look
if I
at
was
Lucas. He's
5'10".
5'9" and he's not sniffing an NFL field.
Yeah, it's messed up. But Jawan is probably our number one option this year. I mean, unless you can just put it back together, which I really hope he does. So let's do it. Like the trade market is probably not great for Jauan Jennings,
Yeah.
and we need him on the night. It just makes so much sense to give this
Well, no, it's
contract,
like,
however,
yeah,
you need to.
we need him and he's good. It should be a no-brainer. Like I know the money situation is difficult, but in terms of Jawan's fit on this team, that being A, he's a really good football player, and B, we need him. Like it should be a no-brainer that we got to do what we got to do to keep him. And I I don't think he's asking for $30 million. I think he is asking to be paid
Mhm.
what he's worth or maybe a little bit more. I don't think he's like, I don't think he's, charging into the, John Lynch's office and going, yeah, pay me Brandon Ayuk money. Like I
No,
I don't think that's happening. I'd
I don't think John
imagine
Lynch
he's
is
not.
ever going to pay Brandon Ayuk money
Right, yeah.
again.
Yeah. Yeah, ask John Lynch how that went the last time. But yeah, I just, I don't know what kind of deal he's asking for, but he is within his right to ask for a new one.
Definitely, definitely. Um, so I really hope this gets solved soon, but
Yeah,
is
Jauan
going to
Jennings
do
needs to be
it.
a Niner. I can't handle because I like Jauan Jennings. I really like him. I think he's good, and I like him as a player, and I like him as a dude, and I like being able to root for Jauan Jennings on my team. And everything that could have gone wrong has gone wrong for the Niners in the last 12 months. And if this Jauan Jennings thing goes the wrong way, I can't fucking take it anymore.
You're going to crash out
Yeah.
and kill your whole family and yourself.
Yep.
If
That's gonna
Jauan
be the
Jennings doesn't
fantasy.
sign with
That's
the
gonna be
Niners, I will kill my entire family and myself.
Yeah. This is gonna be the fantasy football mistake that kills your whole family.
If Jauan Jennings doesn't sign,
Yeah.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Apologies for the delay on this episode, some miscommunication, but it's all good. That is going to do it for episode 73 of Unentitled Sports. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Peace out.